Hello friends and fellow VEDSies, and welcome back to VEDS. Today I'm wrapping up my response video, which is kind of so questionably late in the month. I'm kind of wondering why I'm doing it at this point, but you know what? I'm doing it because y'all made good videos and I want to acknowledge that. So I'm going to be talking about the videos done by James, Jeffrey, and Tessa in this video. And if you want to go back and hear what I had to say about Abby, Alicia, and Graham's videos, you can go to my last response video. So let's start out with James. James, you are nailing it this year. In a year when a lot of us have fallen behind and are definitely struggling to keep up the everyday part of VEDS happening, you're nailing it. I don't think you've missed a day, and you've been very consistent about your upload schedule in the morning and getting those out. And of course, your stuff has the same level of quality that it always does in terms of your editing and your scripting. You're doing a great job. And one of the common themes I've run through these videos has been your discussion about process. I'm thinking specifically about your riffing commercials and in your McDonald's Power Rangers one, how you talked about why you were turning that into a series, and then with your Pilot Obscurities, bringing that back and briefly talking about why you found a new way for it to work for you while it wasn't working for you for such a long time. That's something that as a fellow video creator, I love to see. I love to hear people's kind of getting into the nitty gritty, kind of into the weeds about their work. And the way you wrap those into the overall video package that you're creating. Package is a weird word. I don't know why I said package. That makes it sound like you're submitting something to NBC in the 90s. Your overall video, I just think you are able to tie that process in so it doesn't bog down the video, but it's still interesting, and overall it complements the rest of what you're going to do in that video. Another theme that you talked about in some of your videos, which also parallels with a video that Abby made where they talked about gifts that they give themselves. The idea of kind of buying things for yourself that, I think you used the word silly money at one point, which I like. Just these things that are a little bit more, they don't have the practical use, right? They're just for fun. They're just for self-fulfillment. And in that way, they're very personal. And you've talked about a couple of those. And it's been something that I've had fun thinking about, because I tend to kind of avoid buying too much. I like kind of being a little frugal, I guess you could say. But there are some things I buy. Most primarily, I buy a lot of Legos because I've just always loved Lego ever since I was a kid, and so having adult money now to put towards the bigger Lego sets, I think is really cool. I bought the Daily Bugle Lego set last year. Before that, I bought the Mos Eisley Cantina set. I am putting aside some money so I can buy the Rivendell Lego set right now. It's really cool. Actually, let me show you one that I have over here. This is one of my favorite display piece Lego sets. It is the Batmobile from the 1960s Batman series. And I grew up watching the series occasionally, but because it wasn't out on home release, and we didn't have cable, more so I watched the 66 movie. I watched that over and over again. It was my only exposure to Batman for a very long time. It's great. It's perfectly detailed. It comes with a little Adam West Batman figure and a Cesar Romero Joker that's over there. And just a lot of good details, it has the eyebrows painted on like it is in the show. And the Cesar Romero figure has the mustache underneath the makeup, which is just so cool. Absolutely love this set. And I will be talking more about that in a separate video where I go through my Lego minifigure collection, or at least some of it. I obviously get a lot of Lego minifigures through the sets that I buy, but I also really like whenever I go to a flea market or a con or anything like that to go to kind of the places where they sell custom Lego figures and see what cool characters they have there. So I'll be going over those, especially my X-Men collection, because I'm trying to get all the X-Men in Lego. Also, one of the videos that you kind of talked about this in was your Jonathan Friedman video, which, by the way, Jonathan Friedman, officially an honorary VEDSie, which is awesome. But you also talked about getting the cameo and the stuff you like about that service, the stuff you don't really like. And I was thinking a lot about it because earlier this year, I went and I saw I got to meet Sean Astin, who played Samwise Gamgee in Lord of the Rings. I got to see him at Fan Expo in Knoxville. Very brief meeting. He was obviously a very popular figure, so it's not like I could just sit around and talk to him. I was able to go up and, tell him that, thank him for what he did in Lord of the Rings and just tell him how much I love Sam. And I said it's an honor to meet you, and he told me, no, the honor is, it's like the honor is all mine or something, which I'm like, no, it isn't. But you're good at fan interaction, so I appreciate it. And let me get another prop. I, of course, wouldn't pass up the opportunity to get him to sign my extended edition of Two Towers. This is my favorite Lord of the Rings movie, and it's the one that I feel like Sam has the best moments in, so this is the one I want him to sign. It was really cool, though, because like everyone else there, they had something for him to sign, and a lot of them had the extended editions, but it was very dependent on the person which one they had brought, and some of them had some of the other hobbits sign them and stuff. It was just really cool, and I was thinking about it in relation to you, and you getting to see Jonathan Friedman at that con that you went to. And I'm like, you look at the price tag of some of these cons and the prices that you have to pay to go get stuff signed and stuff. And it varies on the con and who the person is. But like, it can get a little pricey. I will admit, the majority of the budget that I gave myself for Fan Expo went to meeting Sean. And I was thinking about it, like, there are so many worse ways to spend your money, though, because this is a person, an artist who has made something that has directly impacted you. In your case, it's Jafar. In my case, it's Samwise. And usually you have to go through a corporation to get it, right? Like when I bought this used, but if I had bought this money would go to New Line Cinema, it would go to Warner Brothers. It wouldn't, like, there would be some residuals, I'm sure, that would go to Sean Astin, but it wouldn't be the majority, right? But this goes to Sean Astin. And like, I don't think I owe him that money, but I don't think it's the worst way to spend it. Anyway, I'm glad I got to show this off. This was one of my highlights of the year. Also, in your head-on, apply directly to the forehead. In that video, one of the just small details I noticed that I really liked was how you changed the lights in the background to match up with the background of the head-on commercials. I thought that was such a cool touch, and I didn't pick up on it at first. I was kind of being stupid. I'm like, why does his lights keep changing? And then it clicked on me, and I'm like, Oh, that's clever. I like that. I wanted to shout that out just in case no one else had brought that up with you. I think that was such a cool decision. And you know, I think that's going to do it for this section of the response video. Oh, good. I got through. It's me, Editing Caleb, or Final Cut Caleb as I like to be called. Editing James, this is for you. I see what you're doing, and I support it. We editors have to stick together after all. So I've dropped a couple of questions in your comments section. Let's see if we can make the front of camera talent sweat a little bit, shall we? Anyway, I have to get back to editing. Because he gets behind, I end up doing all the work to catch up. You know how it is. Hope the plan goes well. Wait, what is that? Huh. Something went wrong with the camera, I think. But hey, it'll get sorted out in post. Anyway, James, I've been greatly enjoying your videos. Always an honor to do VEDS alongside you, and I can't wait to see what you have for us for this kind of last home stretch of the month. So, without further ado, and now on to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, in one of your early videos, you talked about the connections between music and memory, and just started to explore just the fascinating nature that those two things kind of how those two things kind of relate to each other. Every season, I create a playlist and throw in the songs that either happened at important moments during that season, or just were songs I was listening to a lot. Maybe they were songs that were released during that season of time. And one of my favorite things to do is at the beginning of, let's say, fall, since that's the season we're going into, I'll go back and listen to what was I listening to in fall of 2016? What was I listening to in the summer of 2018? I can go back and relive those memories and kind of connect them. But probably more viscerally, I have this weird thing where when I'm playing a video game, I connect it to what I was listening to at the time, because much like you in the Mystery Case Files games, I listen to, not necessarily music, but I do listen to stuff while I play the game, usually with the game audio muted. So with Minecraft, there would be certain like areas of a mine or like these builds I was doing that I associate with a podcast. And even if many years separate, I still go into that spot and I kind of get this weird feeling that I'm kind of like listening back to that. Same with Breath of the Wild. There are a just ton of areas on that map that I associate with a certain podcast or a certain YouTuber because those were the people I was binging. I will always associate Hades with action button reviews because I listened to so many of those while grinding out and trying to escape Hades. I have so many memories of just like dropping into a room and then there are like all these monsters coming at me, and it's in the background I'll just start imagining this monologue about Pac-Man and why it's like the most beautiful game ever made, because that's what I was listening to while I played that game. You also talked about J.K. Rowling and how that relates to kind of some of your favorite videos, which is something that I think a lot of people have been dealing with over the past few years. I remember I made a video about it when my theme was nostalgia. We were starting to see a lot of the cracks in J.K.'s public persona. But what I really appreciate about that is you focused a lot on the financial aspect of it. Because that's one of those things, right, where it's like, me reading Harry Potter isn't going to change anything. If I went into the other room and I grabbed, one of the books and I started reading it, that wouldn't make the world any better or worse, really. But, if you go out and you spend a lot of money and you drop a lot of money into JK's pockets, that keeps her wealth and keeps her influence going, wealth that she puts towards some horrific things and influence that she uses to openly promote transphobia. One person isn't going to change any of that, right? Like if I stopped buying Harry Potter stuff a while ago, but like, let's say I was still doing it, that wouldn't really affect everything. But I think this larger groundswell that you see within the fandom to kind of move away from that and to distance her from the creation is an important thing. Anyway, I appreciate how you are handling your little corner of the Joanne situation. I hope more and more people continue to call her out for all this stuff because, like I said, there's not much as individuals we can do, but the more and more pushback we give to her hate, hopefully the more and more people will see the other side of that. On a lighter note, you're talking about Holy Musical Batman, which I love. Listen, in my comment on one of your Holy Musical Batman videos, I was like, I don't know if this show still holds up, but I remember really liking it. I've been going back through and watching it as you cover stuff. So I just watched the Rogues Are We section of the musical. Yeah, it holds up. It's still so funny. And I think that the music is way better than it should be. Probably my favorite thing about it is Alfred, though. It's Chris Allen doing just a Michael Caine impression, right? But he has this weird physicality. He's not impersonating Michael Caine. He is impersonating the impression of Michael Caine, if that makes sense. But it's like, if you were to do a Michael Caine voice and like amp it up to 20, what would your body posture, what would your facial expressions look like? And that's kind of how he's channeling it. And there are just so many good moments of him utilizing that. I love Alfred. I'm really excited that you're covering that one. And I can't wait to see, as we go deeper into it, what your thoughts are on the rest of the musical. You also made a video on everyday quotes, which is a fun little guessing game that I did horribly at. I still can't come up with most of where those are from. Can't wait to hear the results. But it has also got me thinking in my everyday life, the stuff I quote. It's a lot of songs. It's a lot of songs for some reason. And usually songs I don't even like that much. But probably my favorite is whenever tacos gets brought up, I involuntarily go, tacos, which is from the web series Platoon of Power Squadron. Taco! Not a big part of that series either. It's like just this tiny little like plot beat that this one character who never gets a name and is not very important says. But now I just can't think of anything besides taco! Taco! And finally, I want to talk about your element video where you talked about campfires and bonfires. Fire is my favorite element. It has been for ever since I was a kid. I think my relationship to it has changed a little bit. I was a little bit of a pyromaniac, but now I think of fires more as like these meditative moments. There's something about being around a campfire like you were talking about that's, I don't know, it feels very ancient. It is social, but there is a bit of a distance there, right? Because it's still dark. You can still hide a little bit, but you're still choosing to come together with these people. If you choose, sometimes I just light a fire when it's just me, but that kind of primordial sense of coming around the fire and coming around and staying warm, I think you really captured that well. And just the beauty of leaving us with the fire for like the last minute of the video and just letting us have that experience. I appreciated how you did all of that. There's very few things that look as good as fire on film. I actually also had a video about fire in mind, kind of like you involving a campfire. I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it in this year's VEDS. It might have to get pushed to next year's. But for now, great job on the video. It was excellent. And that's kind of everything that I have to say with your videos, whether it is your YouTube favorites or your Mystery Case Files games or anything else you come up with. It's always a joy to see what you have, and I can't wait to see what you have for the rest of the month. With that being said, on to our last VEDSy, Tessa. I want to start out by talking about your very first video. And I mean, it's amazing. It's well written. You performed it very well. It was exciting. It set a really inspirational tone and pace for the beginning of the month. But more than that, it's just a really good video, from an editing perspective, from a viewer perspective. I think that since you only get to use this talent once a year for 1 month out of the year, you kind of discount it a little bit. And I think part of that is just probably because you have other talents. You sing, you act, you write, and you spend more time cultivating those. But don't sleep on your editing talents either, because they're there and you get better every year. Another one of your talents is your ability to create PCs in D&D. We've seen this a lot because you've told us about Brina, you've told us about a bunch of your characters in other campaigns, and of course you made D&D PCs based off of us. As a dungeon master, I create NPCs all the time, but NPCs have a very different function. They're there to serve a purpose. And that purpose could just be make the characters laugh, right? Make your players have a good time. But most of the time they're they need an ally in this place, or they need a villain. They need someone to get them started on their quest. They need someone who has these resources. They need someone to talk to about X amount of thing. And so I don't think about my NPCs necessarily in the same way that you would think about your PCs. When I get too invested in an NPC, I have to write them out. Tessa knows that there's an NPC I love called Lorik, who is in our D&D game. And Lorik had a lot more that she was supposed to do, but I quickly fell too much in love with her, and I realized it's oh wait, I'm creating a PC. And if I put this in the game, that's just gonna suck all this attention. So a lot of the plot threads that I had that involved Lorik, I altered, so that wasn't in there. That just kind of shows the difference between PC and NPC character making, and something you've really demonstrated is your ability to make awesome player characters with really rich stories. And I can say this with experience as I DM one of your campaigns. There is just so much meat on the bone with your characters that it's just a gift to a DM, because there are so many different little threads I can pull and tie off and combine with things that I've been working on. It's just really cool, and it's been fun to see you explore that. You also pitched us the Scooby-Doo reboot, which I think is really cool. I have back pocket Scooby-Doo pitches, which is weird because I'm not the biggest Scooby-Doo fan. I like it, but I don't really watch the different versions of the show. I don't think about it that much. But I think the characters have this rich simplicity to them, and the premise is just kind of a golden premise that doesn't need to be altered too much. That's easy to come up with pitches. My main pitch is I want to see a period piece, especially if they ever did a live action, which probably isn't a good idea, because how do you do Scooby-Doo the dog in live action? It always looks weird. But if they had to, don't do some modern thing. Set it in the 60s and the 70s. That would be fun. I think you could also do this with animation, but especially if they were doing a live action route. I would want to see a period piece of that. My other pitch is just to make them kids. That's the only thing that worked about Scoob. The rest of Scoob was awful, but that 5 minutes where they're trick-or-treating together was great. I would obviously want it done by a better team than the people who put Scoob together. But I think that would be fun. Also, you mentioned the Hex Girls in your pitch, and yes, they definitely need to be in any reboot because they have this chaotic bi energy that just needs to be amplified in the world. And finally, I want to talk about ghosts. And I won't be able to do it as eloquently as you did, but I did want to dive in a little bit deeper. In my response to Abby's video, I kind of talked about why I like the idea of ghosts. What your video brought out is this kind of idea of how you relate to ghosts and stuff, because it made me think about I definitely romanticize the idea of haunting a place, and I think that's because haunting is this in-between spot, which you kind of talked about, kind of this liminal spot a little bit in your video, but it's kind of this in-between spot of you're still there but you're forgotten. It's kind of that transition through there. I kind of want to be forgotten. I want to have an impact that carries on. And I hope that like when I have kids, I'll be able to teach them based off of the lessons I've had, and that they'll be able to use those to either avoid making mistakes or to understand what to do once they've made mistakes. From there, they'll have kids and they'll continue on. And I want those lessons to continue on. But I know that within a few generations, I'll just be a name, a face in an old picture, a data point on a family tree. And there's something almost comforting about that. I kind of like the idea that I'm going to be forgotten. You'll be gone one day, but a part of you's going to linger on. And I guess that's how I hope to haunt people. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, because we're talking about two different things. You were talking about kind of almost being like a ghost in the present, being forgotten kind of in the moment. And mine is more like a long-term forgetting. And I think it's maybe getting down to kind of this inevitability that no matter what, you are going to be forgotten. The sands of time will pass and you will fade. And I guess my idea about haunting and like leaving a legacy is what I'm trying to talk about here. It's like I'm trying to impose my own narrative over it so that it kind of lessens the impact of being a ghost. I don't know. I still like the idea of being a ghost, but you've given me a lot to think about. So there you have it. I have finished my response videos. 21 days into VEDS as of filming, so chances are I will not make another response video until the very end of VEDS because we have like a week left. But I have a lot of videos left because I'm so far behind, so I'm going to stop talking and go edit and film some more videos. So friends and fellow VEDSies, I will see you tomorrow.